What if I told you that the secret to a better love life wasn't in a therapist's office, but in an economics textbook? It sounds kind of wild, I know. But today, we're diving into how the core principles of economics can give us some seriously powerful insights into our romantic relationships. Because it turns out, managing information, what you share, what you don't, is just as crucial for a healthy partnership as it is for a healthy market.
Okay, so first up, we're talking about what economists call the lemon problem. But, the dating version. Let's start with a scenario from those early days of dating. That really exciting but also super uncertain phase where, believe it or not, a hidden economic force is already pulling the strings.
So meet Leah. She's out on a date with this guy, Aaron, and on paper, he's perfect. He's smart, he's funny, he's successful, but instead of just being swept off her feet, this little nagging thought pops into her head. Wait a minute, if he's this great, why is he still single? And just like that, a perfect first date suddenly feels a little suspicious.
And here's the crazy part. That feeling of suspicion, it is almost identical to the anxiety you get when you're looking at a used car that seems just a little too perfect for the price. You can't help but stand there thinking, okay, what's the catch? What aren't they telling me?
Well, economists have a name for this exact imbalance. It's called asymmetric information. It just means one person in the deal knows a whole lot more than the other person. The car seller knows all about that hidden rust or the weird noise the engine makes on cold mornings. And your date? They know all about their own baggage, their commitment issues, their messy past. You don't. You're flying blind, at a total information disadvantage.
And this leads directly to the lemon problem. I mean, think about it. Because buyers can't be sure if they're getting a great car or a piece of junk, they're only willing to offer a lower average price just in case. But that lower price isn't enough for people selling genuinely good cars, so they take their cars off the market. So what's left? A market full of lemons. And you could see how this exact same problem can make it so much harder for genuinely great partners to find each other in the dating world.
Okay, so that's dating. But how does this information gap mess with us inside a long-term relationship? For that, let's look at our first case study, Bill and Angela. They were super open when they first met, but pretty soon they fell into a classic communication trap.
And right there, that was Bill's biggest frustration. After they got married, Angela would get upset about something small, like, say, a broken dishwasher Bill had promised to fix. But instead of just saying something, she'd give him the silent treatment for weeks, just stewing and getting more and more resentful.
From Bill's perspective, Angela acted pretty much the same whether she was genuinely happy or secretly furious. He had zero information to go on. So her happy state and her furious state got all jumbled together. They were pooled. Economists call this a pooling equilibrium. He literally couldn't tell there was a problem until, bam, she finally exploded.
So how do you break out of that cycle? Well, the economic fix is something called signaling. It's all about sending a clear, credible message that actually cuts through all the noise. And here's the key. A good signal has to cost the sender something, a little time, some effort, maybe some creativity, because that cost is what proves the message is important and makes it believable.
And this is just a brilliant example of a solution. Instead of being angry about a broken patio door, Angela wrote this note and left it for Bill. I mean, how great is that? It's creative, it's positive, and it's an undeniable signal. It wasn't an attack, it was an invitation. And you know what? It totally worked. Bill got the message loud and clear and fixed the door the very next day.
All right, let's move on to another communication breakdown that is so common. I'm pretty sure we've all been on both sides of this one. It's that huge, dangerous gap between what we say and what we actually do.
Meet Kate and Dave. So whenever Dave got upset about something, like, say, Kate coming home late while glued to her phone, he'd just go quiet. Kate would ask, "Hey, is everything okay?" And he'd say, "Yep, everything's fine." All while slamming kitchen cabinets and practically radiating waves of rage. You know the vibe.
This is a classic textbook conflict between what economists call stated preferences and revealed preferences. The stated preference is what we say we want. The revealed preference is what our actions show we truly want. So Dave said he was fine, but his actions, the cabinet slamming, revealed he was anything but. And economists will tell you every time, actions speak louder than words.
And you see this stuff constantly, right? We say we really need to stick to our budget, but then our actions, like buying a brand new home theater system, reveal what we actually prioritize. Our revealed preferences always tell the real story.
So what's the fix? Well, the person who needs the information, Kate in this case, has to create something called a truth-telling mechanism. That sounds complicated, but it's not. It just means her job is to set up a situation where it's actually easier and better for Dave to just tell her the truth.
So here's the absolute crucial point. Kate has to consistently prove over and over that Dave can tell her what's bothering him without it starting an even bigger fight. If she can just listen, without immediately getting defensive, she builds a reputation for being a safe person to talk to. And over time, that makes honesty the path of least resistance for her.
Okay, so we've talked about what happens when there's not enough information. But what about the opposite problem? What happens when there's a painful, overwhelming, absolute flood of it? It turns out that being open and honest can sometimes seriously backfire.
This was the big issue for another couple, Scott and Maddie. When they'd get into an argument, Maddie wouldn't just stick to the topic at hand. Instead, she'd just unload this torrent of every single complaint she had about their budget, the messy house, her stress at work, you name it. It was just too much, and it would cause Scott to completely shut down into what he called a conversation coma.
Psychologists actually have a clinical term for this feeling. It's called flooding. It's that point where the sheer volume of negative information becomes physically and mentally impossible to process. Your brain just can't handle the overload, so it just checks out. It's a defense mechanism.
So, the economic solution to this problem is a really neat concept called optimal reporting. A great way to think about it is like one of those best colleges lists. Instead of you having to visit every single school in the country, you get a filtered, curated list of just the most essential information you need to make a good decision. It's all about cutting through the noise.
And that's exactly what Maddie learned to do for Scott. Before she would start a difficult conversation, she'd take some time to process her own feelings first, maybe by writing in a journal or just thinking it through, so she could isolate the one or two things that were really bothering her. That's optimal reporting. And because it wasn't an avalanche of complaints, Scott could actually hear her and they could have a productive conversation.
Okay, so let's tie all of these powerful ideas together into a simple, practical toolkit you can actually use. How can you get better at managing the information economy in your own relationship?
So here you go, 3 tools for your economic toolkit. Number 1, signal clearly. Don't make your partner a mind reader, send a clear, creative message. Number 2, create safety. Build that reputation for being a good listener so that telling the truth is the easiest option for your partner. And finally, number 3, report optimally. Filter out all the extra noise and focus on the 1 or 2 things that really matter so your partner doesn't get flooded and can actually hear what you're saying.
Which really just leaves us with a final thought to chew on. We almost always look to psychology for relationship advice, and that's incredibly valuable, of course. But what if some of the most practical keys to a better connection aren't about deep-seated childhood issues, but about the simple, powerful logic of managing information? What if the best relationship advice really could come from an economist?